Hi, I'm Eric Summerer, and here's what's coming from the Dice Tower this week.
Hey folks, welcome to the Dice Tower News for May 6, 2013. A lot of things are going on. We're gearing up for summer. Summer is approaching. Conventions are coming. Games are being announced. As I said last week, if you're a game publisher and you have games being released this summer, let me know. We really want to promote those and talk about the games that are coming out. In fact, just this weekend, I got together with Steve Avery and Brian Pope, and we are starting to design a new game, codenamed currently Giant Robots of Doom. So we'll see how that turns out. Maybe you'll hear more about that in the future, and maybe you won't. We'll have to see. But let's get to some game news that you will hear about. Some things of note on Kickstarter. Chaotic Games has put up their Canterbury, which they say somewhat like SimCity. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Red Dragon Inn 4 from Slugfest Games is on Kickstarter. That series has had a lot of fans, so interesting to see them move to the Kickstarter model. And another game on Kickstarter from Griffin Games, Railways Express, taking Railways of the World, a big, large, grandiose train game, and making it simpler and more streamlined. Battlefront Miniatures now has the license for Dust Tactics and Dust Warfare. Fantasy Flight originally had that. It has now been, the license for it has been transferred to this other company, and so it'll be interesting to see how that takes it. It was an amicable departure, so we've seen this happen with other things. Tide of Iron went from Fantasy Flight, now Dust Tactics has gone. So what will we see next? What's Fantasy Flight focusing on? And it's interesting to see these change-ups, and I don't mind seeing a company really dedicated to a game, really getting focused on that game. There's a new expansion was announced for Mage Wars called Conquest of Kumanjaro. This week I had a chance to look at all the cards that are going to go in it. It's very interesting. What this expansion does is it gives you an alternate version of the Beastmaster, a female Beastmaster, an alternate version of the priest. Now you have a male priest. And so they're very similar. They'll be using probably a lot of the same cards. At the same time, they have unique abilities. And then there's a whole bunch more cards added in this set. Will be coming out this summer. Now, if you like X-Wing miniatures, this weekend you probably sat at your keyboard on Saturday and were pressing F5 waiting for them to announce Wave 3. A lot of speculation as to what Wave 3 was going to be. Well, now we know the 4 ships that are coming out for it. The B-Wing and the TIE Bomber were not really surprises. People talked about them, and it will still be interesting to see how they fit into the game itself. And then the Lambda Shuttle, from the Imperial class Lambda Shuttle, people were talking about that was a possibility. That's a support ship, a ship that's not very good on its own, but can help support the ships near it. But the ship that I think surprised a lot of people was the Kyle Katarn ship, the Moldy Crow. Now, if you don't know what the Moldy Crow is, folks, then you haven't played some of the greatest computer games ever made, way back from Jedi Knight and Dark Forces, computer game, and it introduced Kyle Katarn to the expanded universe of Star Wars, and then he showed up in books later on. But this is interesting because this means Fantasy Flight is going to bring expanded universe stuff in. So come on, we're going to see that IG-88 ship and Bosk ship, Houndstooth and such. I'm really looking forward to that stuff. So big news, Wave 3 coming soon. On our quest to review everything under the sun, we have Rapid Reflex from Fat Brain Games, 8-Minute Empire, a game that supposedly takes 8 minutes. Is that correct? My review will tell you. Black Rock City, Goblins Drool, Fairies Rule, the abstract 3-player game, Talat. And this game, which I am not even going to come close to trying to pronounce, but is a very interesting heavy Euro game. Chains to Champions is a game by the folks Brick Warriors who make accessories for Legos, a combat arena game. Lands Unknown, Reflection, a game that uses a mirror, and some expansion packs for Survive, the 30th anniversary edition. Ryan also is going to be reviewing some games, and you might see some other reviews even from myself, but these are the reviews that you can be certain of seeing this week. In the Dice Tower Network, the Long View has special guest Trent Ham on it, and they talk about Android Netrunner, which isn't really a game that came out that long ago, but Netrunner itself did, and so how has it changed? Rolling Dice and Taking Names, special episode number 11. They sit there and talk about their better halves. In honor of Mother's Day, they have mothers, their wives, on the show to talk about how gaming has affected them as wives and mothers. Ludology number 55, Jeff and Ryan talk about their game trading in the Mediterranean that they are attempting to design and what is working with it and what doesn't work with it. All right. Game Apples number 26, they do an Axis and Allies Spectacular where they talk about several of the versions of Axis and Allies. I don't think they talk about all of them because I don't know that that's possible for any one podcast. Secret Cabal number 41 has special guest Rodney Smith from Watch It Play. They talk about the game Village and also about gaming over Skype. Cardboard Jungle number 17 talks about exclusives. Are they good for the hobby when a company has exclusive cards or dice or whatever? And let's see, Plaid Hat number 90 has special guest Eric Summerer on, and they talk about Mice and Mystics, the past, present, and future. D6 Generation number 124 has special guest Eric Summerer on, and they talk about Mice and Mystics. Wow, he's getting around. I feel a bit of deja vu there. Very different shows, though. Both of them. Check them out. And the Dice Tower, myself with co-host Eric Summerer. The man certainly gets around this week. And we'll be talking about all sorts of things with a brand new top 10 list. So that's coming out at Dicetower.com. You can find all these shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. My musings on this week, I wanted to do a continuation, a part 2 of what I did last week. Last week I talked about me dumping the components of games and how games are fun and we should try to take care of our games, but at the same time I don't treat them as museum pieces. Some people were not happy with what I said, thought that I was lecturing them, and I really don't mean to. It's just a difference of style, and if you want to collect games and put them there as pristine pieces in your household, that's perfectly acceptable. For me, I'd rather see my games be worn down. But I am also worried in the same respect, and in this case, you can take it as if I'm lecturing you if this is something you have a problem with. And that is, I am concerned many times with the amount that people will put on a game and put the game so highly that that becomes almost, idolatry is a strong word, but something to the point where the game is more important than above all. An example, and this is an extreme example, probably hasn't happened, but if someone comes over and accidentally ruins one of your games, your friendship with that person is lessened. Even if they apologize and do their best to fix it, you think less of that person because of what they did to your game, even if it was by accident. Now, I don't think that happens to most people, but when you treat the games as more important than the people you play with, I think there is a serious problem. But I also see this problem online, and it often happens in Kickstarter campaigns where people have kickstarted a game or they want a game and they want the game so badly. They want the game so very much that they don't really care what happens to anyone or anybody else as long as they get their game. Now, I've never really understood. On our show, we do news and we talk about games coming out, and they're coming out soon, and people are like frantic to have the game 1 week before everybody else. It really isn't that big of a deal. It's a nice thing for me and for my crew as news because we get the scoop on it. But playing the game, waiting a month or 2 months or 3 months for the game to come out, I don't think is that big of a deal. But I've noticed in several high-profile Kickstarter things that sometimes there are people involved and money gets lost and things happen. And some folks I've observed have been like, I don't really care, just give me my game. And I think that we often should care. The just give me my game philosophy is just really problematic, and this is the whole thing. I don't really care what happens to my local gaming store as long as I can get games. I don't really care what happens here as long as I can get my games. Games are fun and they're important, but the minute we start placing their value above people and things is really problematic. And that, obviously we are really opposed to people who steal games and who I don't know that many of us have had games stolen from us in the past, but people who take games and you say, really, you are taking a chance at breaking a friendship or just breaking the law to get a game, to go to jail possibly, you'll steal a game? That just seems awfully odd to most of us. But at the same time, how important is that game to us? If you go to an event and you see maybe some little kids there running around and you get all frantic that they might accidentally touch your game, and so you move and you go home and you won't go to that gaming event anymore. And you're kind of putting the value of the game above those people. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be careful with games. And I'm not saying that if there is a guy who's sitting there picking his teeth with the cards of your game, that possibly you may wish to talk to him or not play with him because he's actively hurting your games. But I do get concerned sometimes on the internet that we're all about this consumerism. Give me the games now and I really don't care. And sheer anger at companies who have had sometimes unavoidable delays. And where is my game? Give me my game now. And it's like, folks, you really can wait. For people who get involved with Kickstarters, I advise you to give your money to the Kickstarter only if you can afford to do so. And if you can afford to do so, give them your money and then kind of put it out of your mind. When the game comes in, it comes in. In a future show, I'll talk about some of the trials and tribulations of running a Kickstarter and how difficult they can be, so hopefully you can see the other side of the coin. I'm not excusing bad behavior. I'm not excusing people who try to scam others or break the law or just are general jerks and obnoxious people. But I am concerned sometimes that if I have a game here and I look at you and look at the game and I say I'm going to stick with the game, or people who say I don't really care about the folks I play with if I can play the right game, the people are so much more important than games. So you may disagree with me, but that's my thoughts. Well, that's it for this week, folks. Don't forget, this is not the only place to get your news. Remy Gibson puts out the news every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the Dice Tower News Podcast, a 5 to 10 minute audio podcast. Check that out. You can also find audio versions of this show and some of my reviews at dicetoweraudio.com. Do you have a question? What?
When I was on the river, I would need help. I was swimming in the pool going to Victoria's house.
Oh, okay. Well, you were swimming in the pool?
Yeah, Victoria's pool at her home.
All right. Well, folks, there's a lot of interesting videos and things coming out this week. I hope you check them out. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.
To find out more about all of our podcasts, check out dicetowernetwork.com. To see a listing of our videos, head to dicetower.com. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Cool Stuff Incorporated, where you can buy games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock.
Shut the door!